Hi, I'm Mindy White, and this is Work in Progress. It's a podcast where we will be talking all about human development in tech. In the tech world, WIP stands for Work in Progress. It's often used for pull requests, merge requests, and sometimes even technical documentation that is still in draft mode. It's not quite finished yet. And let's be real, we are not quite finished. Humans are always in draft mode. This podcast is about the real, the messy, the human side of working in tech. I'll be talking with engineers, but also designers, product folks, customer support, coaches, and people from all over the tech world about what they are learning about, struggling with, building, and becoming. Sometimes in code, sometimes in life. But ultimately, we are not here to showcase perfection. We're here to normalize growth, share stories, and remind each other that being a work in progress is exactly where we are supposed to be. So let's commit to curiosity and jump into it. Hello and welcome to Work in Progress. Here we are with David Weiss. I'm a Wyke, so I'm with you with the pronunciation. But I've known David for going on 2 years-ish?
Probably close to that, yeah.
Yeah, we met on LinkedIn and have communicated a lot ever since, talking about collaborations, creations, projects, all sorts of stuff. And here at Work in Progress, we are all a work in progress, talking about human development in tech. And I would love to hear what you're up to, David. So take it away if you want to introduce yourself or share anything in particular.
Thanks so much, Mindy. I'm really excited to be here with you. By the way, I love Work in Progress, the name, and just kind of the concept of this new podcast for you. I think I agree with you 100%. We are all works in progress, whether that's with our careers and our day jobs or hobbies and side projects and podcasts and newsletters that we do, or whether that's with our relationships, right? And other kind of roles and responsibilities we have in life. So I love that. Yeah.
Thank
Just
you.
a little, you're welcome. Yeah. So a little bit about myself. I've been in tech for almost 20 years now, mostly as a front-end engineer. I am a career switcher. So I actually used to be a Spanish teacher before I got into tech. So I'm self-taught and, learned from books and online courses. And of course, the best way to learn, which is just by coding and building projects and learning new libraries and frameworks, on the go, on the fly, right? The past several years, I've been focused a lot on engineering leadership. So I've been in some tech lead and manager roles, and just really care about kind of the people side of software engineering, right? Being able to get to know your colleagues and coworkers and support them, not only with their current roles, but future roles they might be interested in. Obviously, in software development, there's a lot of collaboration with designers and product managers and other business leaders. So I love that aspect as well of working on projects. And that has heavily influenced, besides code, my newsletter on Substack, which you've guest posted on before.
Yeah.
And it really influences a lot of the content that I share on LinkedIn and other places as well. So really happy to be one of many out there who are emphasizing the human side of software engineering and just how important it is, in addition to kind of besides code and, all the technical things that we're up to. So.
Yeah, I mean, the human side makes a huge difference. Being able to actually talk to your peers, to ask questions. Yeah.
So, yeah. What should we talk about today?
Ooh, that's a great question. I guess first, really quick, I want to mention that I will definitely be linking Besides Code in the show notes. And what else? You have all sorts of projects that you've worked on. I have your LinkedIn profile checklist. Are you still selling
Yes.
that?
I am still selling it. It's available on my Sand store. So there's a link to it on my LinkedIn profile, and then as well on like my Substack profile too. So yeah, I mean, I think that's been something that I've been interested in doing this year, is just venturing out and starting to create digital products. Just seeing what that's all about. And that's been really fun to experiment and try that out, and just kind of, I always say that all of us have so much knowledge that we can share, that's just like tucked away in our brains. And I think if you just spend a little bit of time trying to get that out and put that into the form of a PDF, or an article or a course or something like that, a lot of people out there can benefit from that. I think that we all have knowledge to share, and there's usually always people that are a few steps behind us that are interested in figuring out, how do I start a podcast, how do I start a newsletter, how do I you know create a habit of content creation on LinkedIn or on other platforms, right? Or how do I conduct a successful job search, right? How do I go from being a mid-level to a senior engineer? So all of those things, there's people out there that want to learn, that are willing to even pay you for your
Hmm.
knowledge and to learn a little bit. So I think that's been something that I've enjoyed exploring this year, for sure.
Yeah, and then you also had the Notion template for like post ideas for LinkedIn, right?
Yes.
And has it really been that knowledge share that's driven you to try out these like different approaches? Is it just like to have fun, or is it that knowledge share that's really driving you?
Yeah, it's a couple different things. I mean, I think it's just with pretty much everything I'm doing on the side, there's always an element of wanting to really help people and just be kind of a positive influence for people. And especially, I have kind of a soft spot in my heart for early career developers and people that are just starting out. I mean, I'm almost 20 years into my career in tech. I remember how scary it was when I first started, and just how little I knew, and how challenging it was to make friends and to kind of meet new people in the industry, and have people that you can bounce ideas off of, and just have that initial support, right? So yeah, I think that's always kind of the undercurrent in every project I do, is just how can I help people with this new endeavor, and how can I stay true to like my beliefs and values. But I think another part of it, as I've started to grow my side business, since last year, is really like, okay, well, what what can I do to make some money on the side, and you know what's going to resonate with my audience, and is that going to resonate with me as well, right? I mean, um, maybe I can make a lot of money selling digital products, but at the end of the day, that might not be something that, sets my heart on fire, and I might not really be, jazzed up about it. So, it's all about experimentation, and really just trying new things and saying, um, hey, do people want this out there? Is there kind of a demand for it? And how do I feel about it? Does it give me energy? Does it take energy away from me? So
Hmm.
um, so I think that's something that's always kind of in the back of my mind when I'm you know starting a new project, or doing things like that. So
And how many active projects do you have right now? I know there's a couple, plus the newsletter, of course,
there's
and
two there's
chatting with other people and having coffee chats.
yeah, I have too many projects to probably name them all or count on air with you, but
Fair enough.
it's intentional, and for better or for worse, I am mostly happy with the busyness and just doing all these things. I'm in this experimentation phase of growing my side business, and just figuring out how I want to spend a lot of my free time outside of my day job. So it is intentional. It is by design, and I think like I said earlier, I think a big reason of why I'm experimenting and trying all these different things is to really, twofold, right? One, to see like what do people want from me? What can I,
Mhm.
give them that they're excited about, that they're maybe willing to pay me for.
Yeah.
And then what do I love doing? What am I excited about? I mean, I've explored coaching. I've built digital products. I'm, creating SaaS apps now. I have my newsletter.
Mhm.
So I'm experimenting and trying different things. And I think eventually I'll probably settle in on, maybe one or two things that I can focus on. But until then, yeah, it's a busy life, but it's really fun to be experimenting and just trying new things. And that's what I've said this before, you know, in posts and newsletter articles and things like that. I mean, there's just such a amazing feeling about doing, building an app on the side or starting a newsletter. You have complete control over, what you're doing, how you spend your time, what you build, what you write about. And a lot of times in life we don't have those choices. I mean, a lot of times, especially with your day job, if you're a software engineer, you might not get to choose the tech stack. You might not get to choose the projects you work on. You might have to fix more bugs than you have time to do, greenfield development or new projects, right? So
Yep.
when you spend some time, during the 5 to 9, doing things that you're really excited about, you get to control that. You get to say, hey, I want to build an app with this tech stack, or I want to write a newsletter about these specific topics. And there's just something so powerful that I love about having that freedom and having that autonomy that, a lot of times you can't get in other parts of your life.
Right. Well, and actually, you just brought up something sort of like choosing how you work. And I feel like I've been talking to a lot of people recently who, particularly when they're doing their own projects, have a hard time figuring out like, how do I do like organizing, structuring, and like figuring out what the tiny pieces are that they can complete to keep it going. Kind of reaching back to that habit piece you talked about earlier. Is there something that you have used to approach your projects, your experimentation that helps you sort of find those like tiny pieces that you can, am I making sense? But how to find the tiny pieces to do the experiment.
Yeah, I mean, I think uh, building on the side, starting, creating content on the side, starting a newsletter. I think it's a lot like software development, and it's a lot like, your day job as a software engineer, and how you approach projects, how you break them up into small chunks of work.
Hmm.
I try and do the same thing with everything that I'm doing as well on the side. Like, if I'm writing the last newsletter article that I wrote, I it took me, more than one. It took me several sittings, of sitting down and writing to do that, and it took me, um, multiple days or whatever, and being able to focus on like one section at a time, and then refining the introduction, and then the conclusion, and then
Hmm.
proofreading the whole article, right? So, um, I think what's helped me, whether it's writing or building or whatever, is the ability to really, you know, carve up carve up a big project, slice and dice it into really small, concrete, blocks of time, even 15-30 minutes of time, right? Because I think,
Hmm.
um, people like yourself and I, who are busy outside of, our day jobs and our relationships that we have with other people, we don't always get huge blocks of time to do things, right? And so I
Yeah.
think if you want to, um, move the needle a little bit each day, and you want to take one step forward each day, then you can't just say, oh, I'm going to build this app, or I'm going to write this newsletter article. Like, no, you have to be realistic with yourself and with your schedule. And I think you have to break things up into, manageable slots of time, even if that is only 15 or 30 minutes at a time. Um,
Yeah.
because I think
Sometimes
that's going
that's
to
all you
help.
get.
Yeah, it's going to help show you that, you are making progress and you are, slowly making a difference.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Oh, actually, that leads me to another question, which is occasionally you've had collaborations, like you said, I've shared on your newsletter, and I feel like you've gotten a lot of feedback from other folks. How how and when do you choose to engage with other people? Like whether it's asking for help or asking for like if someone's I don't know if anybody works on your SaaS projects with you at all. I think you mostly do those by yourself, but
Yeah.
like how do you figure out when do you bring someone in to the fold?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think yeah, I mean, I think you have to realize like what you're comfortable doing on your own and what you want to kind of um have total control over, and what you want help with, and what you want to collaborate on, so I've worked on SaaS apps and built things on the side with other developers before, with a small group of a small team, if you will. And I've explored that before, and kind of, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But I think what I've discovered is, the more cooks you have in a kitchen, the harder it can be, to kind of get
Yeah,
something done.
that
And I
sounds
faced
familiar.
that a little bit with previous projects. So right now I'm kind of in this season of solopreneurship, right, and kind of being the sole developer, if you will, of an app, and really being able to go at my pace and at my speed, and not having to worry about being blocked or unblocked by somebody else, or waiting on their schedule, right. But when it comes to things like, live streams, obviously the beginning of this year I've done a lot of LinkedIn lives, and I've had guest posts on my newsletter. So yeah, when it comes to those things, I think I've I've come to the realization that there's only so much I can say, and there's only so much experience I've had. But when I bring somebody on to get their viewpoint, to get their maybe breakdown of a particular topic, or hear about their stories, it can amplify my message, and it can highlight different viewpoints about um, certain topics that I'm interested in, right? So I don't ever claim to be an expert in any particular topic, and so it's nice to have somebody come on who has run a successful business and can share advice on that, or um, somebody who is maybe like uh, has ADHD, or like ADD, or like those types of like differences, right, as far as like
Mhm.
um how they work and how they perform and their personality, right. And so that's something that like I don't have experience with, but a lot of people do, and so being able to like get that perspective is super helpful. Same with like maybe somebody who has experience working in with big tech companies. Most of my experience has been small startups in my career, right. So um yeah, I think depending on what your project is or what your endeavor is, I mean, obviously for like a podcast or a newsletter, I think it makes sense to do that, and to bring in different people, so that you can be able to focus on different topics, right?
Hmm. So yeah, thank you for going into that. Something else I've noticed you do that I think is really cool, at least more recently, it seems like you've like been trying this out. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I've noticed you've done a lot more like sharing in advance, like, hey, I have a project I'm thinking about, and like asking for feedback in advance. Is that something that you've learned along the way, or did you do that the whole time? I don't remember.
I have learned that along the way, and that has been such a valuable lesson to learn. Whether it's building an app, or wanting to call out for more guest writers on my newsletter, or more LinkedIn
Mhm.
lives, guests for my LinkedIn lives, right? Like, yeah, just being able to put yourself out there. And I think being able to share that incremental progress, I think is so valuable. and it's just, that's real life as well. I mean, you don't go from, if you're thinking about doing something, you want to start a new project, you want to, build something on the side, you just don't go from 0 to 100 overnight. And
Yeah.
um, I think there's a lot of power and a lot of inspiration and creativity when you put yourself out there and you say, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Like, this is my idea. Does anybody want to talk to me about it? Does anybody want to help me out with it?" Like, and I think when it comes to um, doing new things like starting a podcast or creating an app on the side, um, you're going to get a lot of valuable information up front, and you're going to get feedback, which is just so valuable when it comes to starting new projects and building things. I mean,
Hmm.
when it comes to building on the side, building SaaS apps, I mean, I I'm doing it because I want to build a tool that can be helpful to other people, but I'm doing it for for business reasons as well, to like monetize it and to make money from it. So at the end of
Hmm.
the day, like, yeah, I could build any old app out there, but if it's not going to have any users and it's not going to make me any money, then I'm not really interested in doing it, right? So
Right.
that's the other advantage of you know teasing a project, if you will, and kind of putting it out there, and asking for feedback early, having people take surveys, just to get that upfront analysis, right? It helps you understand whether or not you're onto something and whether you're solving a real problem that people have, right? I
Hmm.
mean, that's when it comes to building apps in particular. I think that's should be the number one question on your mind. Is what I'm building solving a real problem? If it's not, chances are it's going to be a lot harder to sell, to market, maybe even to build. So.
Right. I mean, that's totally fair. Um, so something else that I've heard recently from some conversations outside of here is that sometimes it's a little scary to ask for feedback, and it's a little scary to like, put it out there and ask for advice and ask for just someone to say something about it, good or bad, whatever. Do you have any fear, like maybe not now, but maybe in the past, do you have any fear surrounding like that big ask or what feels like it could be a big ask? And how do you handle that if so?
Well, I think the big fear that I always have is rejection, and is just
Yeah.
people saying like, sorry, I don't have time for you, or sorry, I'm not interested in this. And I think that there's no magic pill you can take to kind of remove that feeling of rejection. I think it's really just, you have to continue to put yourself out there, and you have to like embrace rejection almost to the point where you become numb from it and it doesn't bother
Mhm.
you as much, and I think also just being realistic about humanity and what is going on in people's lives. I mean, I say no to people as well too, and I mean,
Yeah.
I'm very like mindful of my time and how I spend it. So um when I put it into that perspective, then yeah, if somebody says no to me because they don't have time, then I want to be understanding of that, and I want to realize that I do the same thing too sometimes. So I
I
think
need
that
you to
helps
teach
as
me how to do
well.
that, by the way. I am terrible at saying no.
Yeah, it can be a hard lesson to learn, and just a hard action to take on. But especially if you're ambitious and you have a lot of goals in life, and you try and maximize your free time, you absolutely do have to say no, and you have to be very
Yeah.
very ruthless with when it comes to your schedule, because you only have so many hours free hours in the day when you're not sleeping, or you're not working, or you're not like supporting your partner or your family, right? So
Yep.
if I have two free hours a day to work on my newsletter, work on an app I'm building, right? Like, imagine like if I was to just doom scroll on my phone for an hour of those 2 hours, there you go. That's 50% of my time
Gone.
gone, right?
Yeah.
So you really do have to be mindful of your time and be comfortable saying no. But yeah, I mean, I think really just um, that I think whenever I start anything new and whenever I ask for feedback, that fear of rejection or that yeah is always in the back of my mind. But I think the more I put myself out there and the more I do these things, it becomes easier, you know, and I become more, I think, understanding of people and their time, um and it does get easier over time. So
So I guess I'm hearing push through it a little bit. Is that right?
yeah, you have to push through it. I mean, I think
Mhm.
that you know, yeah, like the hardest part is really starting and just building that initial momentum. And um like you got to look at it from the other perspective as well. If especially if you're, if whether it's whatever the side project is, if it's something that you're very interested in, you want to devote a lot of time to it, you want to put a lot of your energy and focus on it. The other perspective and other alternative that you need to be thinking about is like, well, you know, do I want to be spending all this time doing something that is not going to resonate with other people, that people are not going to enjoy? If I'm, for example, if I'm building an app, is it going to be just something that a nice to have app, or is it going to be a must have app that is really going to solve a problem? Right. So
Right.
I think that's the other thing to keep in mind when when you're starting a new project and you're asking for that early feedback is, well, yeah, this might hurt my ego a little bit. It might be tough to handle this rejection, um, but maybe it'll also help me along the way, and it'll like allow me to refocus and maybe pivot if I need to, and or it might might cause me to stop in my tracks and really like reevaluate what I'm doing and spend my time doing something else. As much as it might hurt in the short term, I think it's just so helpful in the long run to get that feedback and to ask for help up front, because if not, you could be going down, a path that you might not want to. So
Yeah, and you learn so much more when other people come along for the ride, I've found. So that makes sense. Um, do you feel like talking about any of your projects? Like, is there one that you want to highlight? Just kind of something that you're working on. You don't have to,
yeah,
but
no, I'm happy to talk about Resume. It's an SMS tool that I'm building to help busy people like yourself and myself context switch and really, like, be able to not only capture, what we were just last working on and what we accomplished, but also kind of set us up for success in our next role, right? So this is a little bit of a, scratch your own itch project, but it's also something that I've done a little bit of research on, and I've gotten some, I've put out an initial survey and talked to some people about it to get kind of that validation that I needed to move forward on the project. But it's actually my first kind of consumer app, if you will. I've built a couple other B2B, SaaS apps in the past,
Mhm.
that have been targeted more towards businesses. And Resume is, a tool that really any, adult out there can use and hopefully benefit from. And so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I like that. It's a scratch your own itch project. So it's something that solves a problem that you experience yourself, which is always kind of a nice driver to like keep going, especially if you're like running into challenges or, you know, just like not feeling it that day. You're like, no, I really want to solve this problem. So that's a good one. Let's see. Anything else you want to talk about before we sort of start to wrap up?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think like I mean, the other thing I was going to mention to you in relation to kind of the origin of your podcast and the work in progress title is I think that um that really resonates strongly with me as somebody who kind of tinkers on the side and enjoys writing and building and creating and kind of immersing myself into side projects,
Yep.
you know, when I'm not working full time. And I think that, you know, I think all of us really can share in that, in the sense that, you know, we're the side projects that we work on and the things that we spend our time on, you know, it is a work in progress, in the sense that we're trying to figure out, you know, like what what resonates with our audience and our network, and what is something that really excites us and, you know, sets our heart on fire. I mean, like I said earlier, you know, I mean, there's, you know, whether it's a digital product or a course or an app that I
Yeah.
build, you know, like that could be something that could be monetized, and it could, you know, maybe make my business money. But if it's something that takes a lot of energy from me and is time consuming, and it just doesn't, you know, maybe align well with kind of the direction of I'm looking to go, then it might not be a good fit, you know. And so I think that, like, whether it's, you know, starting a podcast or starting a newsletter, or building an app on the side, you know, I think a lot of those experiments that we run as, you know, busy professionals and, you know, solopreneurs, if you will, they are works in progress. And there's, as much as that might be, you know, hard to swallow, or as much as that might be like frustrating to know that, like, because there is also that negative connotation with a work in progress, right? It's not complete, it's not final, it's still yet to be determined, and you know, like, just completed, right? So
Mhm.
uh there, it can be like daunting and frustrating and overwhelming to know, like, well, you know, this project is a work in progress, and so I don't know what's going to happen with it, right? But I think,
Yeah.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is there's also a lot of freedom there, and there's also like that sense of, you know, the sense of mystery, and like the beauty of the unknown, that you really don't know where it can take you, and what doors can open up from it, right? So I think that's kind of another thing that's important, that's worthwhile to think about and to emphasize with all these works in progress that we have, is the fact that, like, there is that element of surprise and mystery and kind of hope, if you will, about, you know, what can come from it, and not only for you but for other people as well that get to interact with that. So I think that's something that inspires me and motivates me to, you know, to keep creating and building.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's all about the journey of the experimentation and creativity and curiosity. And that's where I think that that's where the growth is. It's not in the polished projects. Of course, like, you know, if you're launching for real and you're trying, you know, there are definitely cases for a polished project. But I think for the by and large, especially now in today's like tech world where it's like going fast and then iterating, things not being polished is kind of the norm now. And you know, it's especially because it's much easier to deploy than it used to be. It's a lot, people are a lot more forgiving about things not being completely finished, and I think that that is valuable. And I mean, like you're saying, like as people, we're works in progress, our projects are works in progress. Like if you own a home, your home is a work in progress. Like everything
Yeah.
is. I mean, every
Yeah.
day is a new challenge. So thank you for validating the podcast. Well, cool. What would you like to, if you have people remember anything at all, what would you like to have people walk away with today?
Yeah, I love that question, and I love that you're closing with that. I mean, I think for me, you know, I mean, I imagine a lot of people watching this are software engineers. They're involved in the tech industry, but they might not be. And I think, you know, wherever you are in your career and in your life, I think, you know, I challenge you to, um, you know, to tap into your entrepreneurial spirit and like unlock that creativity that's within you, whether it's starting to put yourself out there maybe on LinkedIn a little bit more and posting about what you're learning at your day job, and what you're excited about when it comes to, you know, your particular career, or starting a podcast or starting a newsletter. I think there's just a lot of value in creating something out there, right? Instead of this nowadays, like everything is all about consumption, right? And so just scrolling endlessly on your phone, whether it's on TikTok or LinkedIn or even on Substack, right? Or something like that. So, I would kind of push any of your listeners out there to really think about, carving out some of their free time to creation instead of consumption, right? And I mean, that could be anything from, like I said earlier, starting a newsletter or building an app, or maybe even spinning up a side hustle based on, the knowledge that you've gained from your career.
Right.
But I think when you take a step aside from just consuming content and focus a little bit more on creation, I think you really do have the power to positively impact other people's lives. And also you are going to open up doors to new opportunities, whether that's with your career and your job, or whether that's new relationships and friendships that you might gain. There's just so much upside and benefit to creating something and putting it out there. And it's unlike scrolling and consuming content. There's really there's only so much return you can get from that, from doing that. But when you create and you put your thoughts and your ideas and your energy out into the world, you can have a much bigger impact and, like I said, open up doors and start new relationships, which I think everybody wants. So
Yeah, it's been really cool. I've met tons of new people, and yeah, it's actually, I was just thinking about how like a scroll could be a quick dopamine hit, but like the reward that I have gotten from creating and from people reaching out to me or talking to me or saying, I've seen what you've been doing, has been huge.
yes.
So I totally agree with that. And yeah, encourage everybody to try to create something, because it can be easy. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be something
Yes.
small. And that, like, honestly, the hardest part is just starting. So start something. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I think that'll do it. So thank you so much, David, for joining me today. And I will have links to Besides Code, your LinkedIn, maybe Resume if you have something for people to follow along.
Yep.
All the good stuff. So we'll get that put in the show notes. And thank you again. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mindy, and best of luck with this new adventure. I'm happy to support you. So
that's it for this commit of the Work in Progress podcast. If you liked it, please hit follow, leave a review, or share it with another human who's figuring things out too. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and keep showing up, even if it's still a draft. Until next time, keep iterating.